Two experts in ICF.
Yeah.
Decades of experience. One podcast.
Yeah.
Two hosts with a lot to say.
Look, I cannot sit through a struggle. I gotta get up and hustle. I gotta push through the pain, cause really that's how you build muscle.
Welcome to the Build With ICF podcast with your hosts, Trevor Brown and Heather Herring Brown. Yep, they're a package deal. With over 20 years of ICF installation experience, Trevor can throw down some expertise on sales, marketing, and training. On the other side of the table sits Heather, aka the girl boss, and she's earned the title as the owner of an award-winning ICF construction company, a drafting and design company specializing in ICF. And the numbers? With a master's in accounting, she does that too. Sleeves up, boots on. This is the Build With ICF podcast.
I don't want nothing for free. I'm here to work. Been through the dirt. I've been through the dirt, yeah.
We did lie a little bit about what we said in the intro. Once again, the girl boss is not going to be with us today. She was going to kind of come rolling in hot because she's on the road. She's actually up checking an ICF job that's been under snow for the whole year. So she got stuck in the mountains a little bit longer than she thought. So it's going to leave just to have to carry all the talent on our own, just myself and Randy here. So I think we can do it. I mean, and I say we, I mean Randy, but today's an episode I'm super excited about for many, many reasons. You don't even know it yet, but you've already been called out in several episodes. We've name dropped you on multiple occasions saying, we're going to have Randy Daniels on here. We're going to have Randy Daniels. Like it was our teaser to get people to keep listening. And so they'd listen for this episode, but it's really cool. Something near and dear to my heart. This is the guy that got me into the ICF business. This is the first guy I met in the ICF business way back in the day, even though he's barely older than me, just slightly. But Randy Daniels with Fox Block, thank you for being here today. Super excited to have you on.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing to see you rocking and rolling in the world with the podcast. I just think it's fantastic. And no, Heather, man, we got no adult supervision.
I know this could go off the rails real easy. She's gonna probably have to proof this before I can actually put it on. She's gonna make me let her listen to it and edit it probably. But well, so you've got so many facets that we could have you on here for. I let your brother Mike Dalzell come on here to talk about Fox Block and really give the promotion. It's obviously something that you can do as well, and I'll let you do a little bit of that. But I really want to get our listeners to understand the scope of what ICF is doing. And I really don't know that there's too many guys in the industry that are doing the size of projects that you're doing on a consistent basis, where you've taken ICF from, this product where you'd stack it too high and make a foundation out of it back in the day. And maybe if you're lucky, a basement to these multi-story hotels and all the different things you do. So we're going to get into that today. So that's today's episode, is big commercial ICF jobs and where it's going. But first of all, let's go back to you. How did you get involved in this, and how long have you been doing it? And how did you land here? How did you become the Randy Daniels?
It's just, so I came off a ranch in the Dakotas, and I was working as a ranch hand, and I landed in SoCal. There was some difficulty on the reservation, and got politely asked to leave. So at 17, 18, 19, I landed in SoCal, and I got a job at a ReadyMix company, and not too long, I drove ReadyMix truck. I was delivering mud. And so that was my 20s, and of course got married, had daughters in there. But at one point in the, say, mid 90s, I got asked to do this promotion effort with the Southern California ReadyMix Concrete Association. They asked several companies, if they could nominate a guy to go around and do some presentation work on this thing called Insulated Concrete Forms, because they wanted to flip out stick frame stuff to concrete in the middle, foam on each side. So my boss asked me, and sure, I'll go make presentations. What's it pay? You know, he said, well, it's the same, it's the same pay you get now. And I just thought, well, that's easier than doing what I'm doing. So they gave me a minivan and they gave me some, what was that? Conform and some, I think it was green block. Some of the really old original
stuff, yeah,
brands. And they gave me an arcs block, which was a rigid molded block. I'm sorry, Blue Max.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started going around and calling on architects and making presentations, and I had no idea what I was talking about. I just made stuff up. It was fun. And so my boss got a little scared, and he decided to send me to a training. So I went to a Blue Max training, and that was 97, 98, somewhere in there, 98, 99 maybe. And Glenn Clausen gave the class. And to this day, he's one of my dearest friends. I just love being with Glenn and hanging out with him. Best sense of humor. Anyway, long story even longer. It wasn't but mid 99 when I was giving a presentation to the City of Laguna Beach Home Builders Association. And there was, I don't know, 40, 50 people in there, and I was having fun. I don't mind getting up in front of folks and yakking. So one of the attendees was a guy named Mike Knopf, and he pulled me aside after the presentation and said, "Hey, you want a job?" I said, "Sure. What's it pay?" and at the time, I was a major account sales guy for the ReadyMix company. I'd grown a little bit in the company, and I was running around doing major project sales of ReadyMix concrete. So this kind of fit the bill, and I thought, yeah, I'll do something. So yeah, I joined Blue Max in late 99, and so started with that ICF company. And in its day, it was one of the lead horses. And ever since then, in one form or another, I've been running around the Western US and trying to, develop awareness and specifications of concrete in the middle and foam on each side.
Well, and you haven't got too far away from Mike Knopf. You kind of still hang out with that guy a bit, and Mike Dalzell, and previous guest Mike Dalzell, and you guys are all the name, and all. I saw Tom Patton the other day, when we were down in Vegas, and I look back at when I got into it through you. Dalzell took me over to Bend and gave me all my training when they were doing the mill district over there, and got to get my hands on stuff over there. Mike Knopf obviously has always been involved, and still see everybody around. I think it's what's so cool about our industry is just everybody's, I've run into a couple guys that didn't jive with the group, and they're not around anymore. And for the most part, everybody kind of plays in the same sandbox really, really well. So all still good friends. Everybody, we still lean on each other for stuff all the time. So it's pretty cool how you hear all those names. I'm like, God, those are all memories to me. That's how I got into this thing. So super, super cool. But so, when did you make this when were you kind of, or what prompted, I guess, you to kind of go into that commercial vein? Because that's your gig now. You just Trevor, pushed into it.
Yeah. I don't, so I hate to say this, and maybe Heather will edit this out, but on the dealer sales kind of setup and support, I just never really very good at it, but a lot better at trying to get with the mucky mucks, from the architectural side, from the structural engineering side, from the owner developer side. Just way more comfortable generating projects and supporting those projects directly, and understanding the history that I have with large scale masonry firms, from the history with the ReadyMix company, large scale concrete firms, as a customer, I just understand that world. So that's, you lean into what you know, and So I always wanted to go after, the commercial stuff and get that going. Institutional, educational, federal military, that just really appealed to me. And a lot of the years that I've spent in this industry were handcuffed a little bit because of the desire to, develop, mainstream distribution. And Kanawha really put me in a great spot these last 10 years with Fox Blocks, and being responsible for what I can, I would call it the biggest bang for the buck with me is to just let Randy go, and try to develop and secure and close on, you know bigger projects on the commercial side. So that's, where that's come from. And kudos to Kanawha for leadership, and taking good care of folks. He takes really good care of folks that are working with him and for him. So he's got me set up for success in this industry. So that's how I get to kind of cowboy around. And
I mean, as a guy that's out there I've been out doing it. It's a different skill set, man. I will fully admit, not mine. I've been involved in some big projects. It's not my skill set. And so it's like, I admire the ability to, it's eating an elephant, dude. I mean, when you're looking at it from a ICF sales guy standpoint, super easy just to slam dunk a foundation, a basement, a house, even around here. But when you're getting into commercial projects, I mean, you have to speak the language. You have to know, like you said, you got to have the relationships with the architects, the engineers. These things are planned years in advance. This isn't, I still get guys that walk into the warehouse here and just say, hey, I need to pick up 400 blocks. I mean, they just, no planning. It's just, hey, I'm going to go do this job. You're talking about projects that are years in the making, and just having the confidence to walk in that room. And I've been in those rooms. I've made the run at that. I've been involved in some multifamily stuff and some big commercial. And, you're walking into the room with a, bunch of dogs in the room that all want answers, and you got to be able to answer all of them and manage them all. And as we all know, like, managing an architect, an engineer, and a builder all in the same room, that's 3 different languages. So you do a great job at it. I mean, it's definitely something you got to have that skill set to be able to close the amount of deals that you've closed in that side. But what do you think as far as the listeners? I love, we mentioned this off air, but I love the idea of like because I have people walk up and they'll see us doing 1-story house and they're like, this is amazing. Can you do 2 stories? And I kind of laugh and chuckle. I'm like, we can do 26 stories. Like, whatever, like, how do you think, what in your mind, basically, where did we kind of start seeing that change from people just thinking it was a foundation product, or just thinking a basement, or just thinking a 1-story house, to where you're doing some of the projects you're doing now? Like, where did we turn that? How'd that switch flip on to where we're doing big commercial now?
Well, I'm not sure it has. I mean, I continually run into the same thing.
You just want more, but from the outside looking in, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty, but good grief. I mean, the trade shows and some of the meetings, and oh yeah, I've seen that. I saw that on this whole house for a basement
30 years ago.
I still get that 30 years ago. And so, yeah, it's funny. I mean, but it just speaks to, the siloed nature of, where you live and what you do. And, so, in some markets, ICF major projects is kind of a mainstream choice. It's remarkable.
Well, you've killed it in Phoenix. I mean, you are dominating Phoenix. I mean, I've done the tours down there, and from the fire stations to the Catholic churches to the schools. I mean, it's like Phoenix has just been an amazing market for you for all that stuff.
Yeah, and then there's a manufacturing plant, and there's some guys in that market that are just superb. So it's not me per se. It's just things are lined up for kind of
right.
when you've got good horses,
right,
and they're getting fed well with a local plant, then you're gonna see outstanding growth, especially on the bigger side. And like the Dallas market, it's just remarkable. So I took a glance just to try to get my head wrapped around some numbers. So the bid process, I mean, the plans that come out specified ICF, and for major projects like schools in particular, just in the North Texas market. So say we took a look at that in the 2023 year, and that was over 90 bids. That's
Wow.
over 90 takeoffs and renderings and bids we put out on. And that's not us developing anything. I mean, that's us just taking a look at the project. It's specified ICF for the walls. Oklahoma storm shelters, like 27 bids in 2023. It's pretty remarkable. So I did some quick calcs. Commercial, educational, institutional, federal, military, hard bids, concrete in the middle, foam on each side for these building envelopes, large scale building envelopes. There was 150 in 2022. There was 200 plus in 2023. So far this year, 70
Wow.
bids. So a lot of my time is working with our estimating department and getting takeoffs done and putting pricing and freight together to get folks our horses that are, the good subs out there that are large scale ICF subs, the numbers they need to bid these things turnkey.
What do you think? And this is, I'm asking for myself as well as for the people on the podcast. But do you think with the schools, all the school growth and this stuff? I know Kentucky kind of led the way a long time ago as being like able to, with between solar and doing that, and be able to cash flow on their schools and stuff. Do you think a lot of the growth in the school side is just the operational savings of ICF is what's pushing that? You think? Or what do you think it is? Oh, that's why I ask. Ask the guy that knows.
So, it'd be nice to see it.
That's the warm, fuzzy answer. They don't want to spend our tax dollars, right? They don't want to. They want to save us money.
The funny thing is, selling on green is still a tough call.
Oh,
man. Yeah, it's just a tough call. But as soon as the school district finds out that the first cost on ICF isn't any different than masonry or tilt or even today's steel stud and cavity wall construction, they suddenly go, wait a minute, we can get mass walls with over 5 inches of rigid insulation on them for the same cost as we can, conventional. They just, all right. So it's pretty interesting to me. Most of the trigger pulling on ICF specifications is just coming out due to first cost being more competitive with ICF, and then the schedule savings. And there's active GCs like in the Texas market, an example of the one down in the Austin area that they lead with their design build approach with school districts. They're one of the largest GCs for schools in the Texas market. They lead with wall assembly costing. So we've had the privilege of assisting with that and having that costing. And so now we have these side by side wall assembly through the wall costing on CMU with furring and some rigid insulation and whatnot. And it's $2 to $3 higher than ICF. And ICF is, preaching to the choir, but against what you have with tilt or CMU, ICF is structurally superior. It's thermally superior. It's acoustically superior. It's superior on the schedule, faster. It's risk reduction superior in all aspects. And then you get this, ongoing operational cost reductions that are significant. It's not rocket science. We're delivering as an industry over 5 inches of rigid insulation versus, what you get out there with an inch or two if you are putting rigid insulation on it. So anyway, that's what's really driving the tremendous growth. And the school districts, they are promoting net zero ready all the time. So, but I'm pretty sure that's not
happening. That's not it.
It's
it's a great thought to think that they're maybe saving us some dollars on our tax dollars, not just flushing them down the toilet a little bit. So
to the utility company.
Yeah, you're hoping, but no, that's great. And that's interesting because that's a lot of people wonder. It's been something that I've seen. One of the bigger areas that I saw it in my territory when I was on the road was down in Utah, where we one school district in Utah started speccing, ICF for their schools. And about the time the second school kicked off, I immediately saw a spike in our ICF residential sales. Like it was people in that area saw the school go up with ICF and they immediately like, oh, well, if the school's building out of it, maybe we should look at it for our house. And it was, so I think
you're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. One of yours. Yeah. Like, I think you look at that, and that's the thing I look at. I go, when commercial construction is being done with ICF in these areas, there's an immediate positive effect on the entire ICF industry, whether it be residential, commercial, whatever, because they're just, like it or not, the majority of the world are followers. They're not going to jump out there. That's why ICF's been such a slow grow, is because, well, did somebody else do it? Okay, and it went well. Now I'll try it. It's really hard to be that front of the line pioneer guy. No one wants to be the drummer out front. They want to wait till they prove that it's safe and everything's good. So it's something that benefits us. And I've seen it from hotels to everything. So you think, as far as in the commercial world, is that where the most growth is in educational, you think? Or, I know, like I said, you're seeing a lot of fire stations, you see Catholic churches, you see hotels. Like, what do you think in the commercial world is your hot spot or your number one leader?
Well, the number one market continues to be the Texas, Oklahoma, in the Western U.S. is what I can speak to, west of the Mississippi, because I don't like going east of that river.
There's muggy over there. It's hot and it's muggy. Fat guy like me, I can soak a shirt real fast over there. They don't like fat guys over there.
And it's really interesting to me, just because I spent some time ranching and where grass grows and where it doesn't, and so it's like pockets. So in North Texas, it's educational.
Yeah,
you've got half a dozen architecture firms that are continually plugging it in, and in Central Arizona, my God, the number of devotional projects. We built over 33 churches in the Arizona market.
That's crazy.
These are large scale, mostly Catholic dioceses, and in Utah, we are proud of the first half dozen schools now in the Utah market. A couple more coming, but Utah is theaters, man. It's just
theaters. That's right.
The megaplex theaters in Utah is just kind of bizarre. In Oklahoma, we are bidding a gymnasium or cafeteria, storm shelter edition at every school district is plugging in ICF storm shelters. So it develops a little bit of like a mercury. As soon as you get some ICF specifications and success in a certain market segment, people just start thinking, oh, okay, ICF is for churches.
Yeah.
Or ICF is for a storm shelter. And, we're proud of the first ever, schools in the Missouri market, 3 now, and more coming. And so, we're getting this mindset there that it's ICF is for schools, but there's, hotels and churches and stuff in the Missouri market. So anyway, helicopter view of that is certain type of grass sprouts, and then that's, it kind of just spreads.
Yeah.
And so it's really regional, and it's really, I would call it the engineering, the A&E community in that market. They start paying attention if 2 or 3 projects go up with ICF and start considering it for that same style of project. But we're always trying to expand that vision. That there's a tunnel vision around ICF in a lot of cases, and the applications that it can do and perform well and be the low cost leader and the performance leader for a building envelope. They're wide and various.
Yeah.
And so that's the job.
It's the same as I guess it's universally across the whole ICF world, because it's the same thing. I get people, you'll get in front of a group of people and they'll say, well, what's what's the selling point of ICF? And you got to say, well, where are we selling it? Because I can, if you want to talk about the Midwest, okay, it's storm, the resiliency of it, or a hurricane area or a coastal area, and it's interesting that it's the same thing in commercial for you, based on what type of thing you're doing regional, because it is a regional thing. Like it's, if you're in California and Northern California, seismic is a big issue. If you're up here in the Northwest, fires are a huge area, and California as well. But you may look at Phoenix for heat, you look at North Dakota for cold. It's crazy how versatile. And that's why I guess we love what we do. That's why we love the product, is it's something that works for everything. And it's like, you tell me where you live and I'll tell you the benefit to it. And there's nowhere
I like
you live
to
that
approach
doesn't.
it. I like to approach it. I get that question. Well, why should we use ICF? And my favorite question is, well, what you building? And say, okay, we're going to do a grow facility, which is kind of fun. Yeah. So, okay, you need security, you need thermal, and you need to comply with FDA standards for interior air quality, because if you're doing edibles or tinctures. So why would we use ICF? Well, what you building? Oh, we're doing production film studio, sound studio. Well, you need THX quality acoustics. You need STCs over 70. You need low bass resistance. So here's your wall assembly, and here's what it'll cost, and that's your schedule. Yeah, that's why you would build ICF. Well, so the question is really not where, but what. What are you building? What are you trying to accomplish with that building? And how can ICF help you? And sometimes I'll come across a cut up cantilever, mostly glass, and why would we use ICF? Well, you wouldn't. It's go steel. Good grief. I'll see you on the next one.
Yeah.
So and I don't, I like low hanging fruit, and these days in the mid 60s, I don't need to try to pursue stuff that wouldn't serve the building, So, if you weren't going to do it out of cast in place concrete anyway, if it doesn't fit for that, it doesn't fit for ICF.
Yeah, we do. And this is going to my other podcast, the Wreak Havoc podcast. We talk about sales, and everything. And I preach that all the time on the sales side of the world. I'm like, the minute you can tell a customer why they shouldn't use your product, you will gain more respect and more probably loyalty from them than the days you tell them how to use your product. So some of those, I do it all the time with ICF. When I look at something, I go, yeah, honestly, I'd love to sell you block, but this probably isn't a great fit for what you're doing, especially they're doing something really super small or something. And you're like, you're not really going to get enough benefit or whatever. So it's really interesting that you say that, because I agree 100% with that. But so we're going to get into our questions here that we do. We get 3 questions that we ask everybody about, and I'm really anxious to ask you, because I know that you've got some pretty great answers for each of these. But number 1, out of all these experiences you've had in the ICF industry, what would you consider, and this could be a project or just an individual experience, but the most memorable experience or project that you've worked on in ICF to date?
Oh, what a cool question. So I run around, doing presentations and trying to educate, and I rarely get to actually build, and run a job. And just so I had this really cool experience, and goes back, I don't know, 15. So anyway, there's a conservancy called the Catalina Conservancy, Catalina Island, off the Southern California.
Yep.
And they got buffalo over there for a movie shoot in the 40s. And this herd of buffaloes, they wanted to transfer back to the home range. And they were going to take them back to the Rosebud Indian Reservation, the Rosebud Nation, South Dakota. And I had set up a dealership over there, the only dealership on Catalina Island. And the principals of that dealership were also on this conservancy. Mm-hmm. And they said, they said, Randy, would you like to get involved in this? And I said, not really. you know, but then they said, well, the conservancy is going to assist with transferring these buffalo back to the Rosebud Reservation, and they also want to build a medicine lodge to commemorate this because it's part of the prophecy of the tribe that these buffalo would come back and they would be little white buffaloes. And what happened over the years on Catalina, because they didn't have as much ground to roam, the buffalo got smaller and they bleached a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I said, all right, well, have fun with that. And then they said, well, they want to do it. We want to do it out of ICF. We told them about ICF. I said, oh, okay. And the Rosebud is right next to our home place. We've got a ranch there. I said, well, that'll give me an excuse to come back. So anyway, they brought the buffalo back. I got to build a kind of a cool medicine lodge. And when I say I mean, that's my selfish soul, shallow talking. The conservancy, and I got to kind of run the job and do the tech support and point fingers and actually stack and get it poured and get to know the medicine man. And he gave me a gift for the medicine. It's hanging on the wall behind me. And so it was pretty cool. I mean, the real experts in our industry are the guys out there stacking and pouring day in and day out. We're running around trying to make stuff happen and build awareness. But that job is just near and dear to my heart because I got to work with the hands and get something done and that, and I always get a kick because I am shallow. The big projects that I get to, get awarded, some of these theater jobs and hotel jobs, and so that's always the thing. But little tiny medicine lodge was cool.
That may have just set the bar so high for unique, memorable experiences. I don't know. I'm going to challenge.
It's tied into the Lakota Sioux prophecies of little white buffalo returning back to their homeland, and they were smaller than the.
That is wild. That is wild.
It was supposed to herald a time of rebirth and rejuvenation and peace, and I don't know if all that happened, but it was cool to be part of it. Anyway,
that is an awesome story. That's as unique as it comes. I pity future guests having to try to beat Little White Buffalo story coming over from Catalina Island. But so our second one, and I'm switching them up because I'm going to do this from here on out. So number 3 is now going to be number 2. 2 is going to be 3. Number 2, what are you excited about in the future of ICF? Like what is the exciting thing? And this can be, again, everything from a product that you see coming up, projects that you guys have, things that Fox Block's doing, things that are happening. What are you excited about when you look at the next, just say 5 years of ICF, what's coming down the pipe?
Oh man, I'm really excited about retiring fairly soon.
Another great answer. Just back to back great answers. Yeah.
No, I got 3 or 4 years left in me, I think. So I don't want to be doing this when I'm 70, but if you'd have told me in 1999, if you'd have told me then what I'm doing today, I'd have told you you're out of your mind, just out of your mind.
Yeah.
I mean, if I got a basement or a house anywhere in the, state, I was calling the newspapers. So, so to today, I see some really big things on the horizon for our industry. I see projects of scale, templatized. I see development companies adopting ICF as the go-to for production facilities, for of course, for multifamily. You've got multifamily developers out there, and these are large-scale projects, and they're just adopting ICF. There's hotel chains now, hotel operators that have just 100% gone to ICF. And that trend is going to continue across the spectrum. And I just see the commercial, institutional, federal, military growth curve really doing that drywall thing.
Yeah.
And drywall at one point was, a little tiny market segment, and it kind of sputtered for years and years. And then it started growing 20, 30% year over. And now look at it. And so I see ICF doing what drywall did, and that is exciting. It is, tremendous, tremendous growth. And I see, vertically integrated manufacturers like Airlight, of course, being, such a big part of the industry, midterm and long term. Airlight just did a large scale investment on a Dallas manufacturing facility, wholly owned now by Airlight. So it's stuff like that is really exciting to me. Other exciting stuff are the ability now to go, 30 inches and wider with ICF. And that is being done and accomplished for, like recent theater project with, walls going up 68 feet with an 18-inch core.
Wow.
And bidding one right now with a 16-inch core. And we did one with a 30-inch core, and it was, just 4-foot tall grade beams, but massive 5-story federal military bachelor enlisted quarters on top of 30-inch core ICF, 8-inch core ICF, one on top of 30-inch core ICF. So that type of stuff. And I've always been really excited about the tilt-up market. And I convinced Airlight and the leadership that we should have a tilt-up product. And it's just never really taken off. And we have a tilt-up product. And I remember, what was it, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, going to the Kansas City Tilt-Up Convention and doing a demonstration pour on Fox Tilt. And so I'm still excited about that. It's been so difficult to crack the good old boy network in the tilt-up. But ICFs, or the panelized systems anyway, or the one-sided, the knockdown, the foam panels with the studs already in them, laying those down as an underlayment in a tilt-up panel and casting that concrete on that panel and then lifting it's such a smart thing to put the foam on the outside of the building where it belongs,
right,
where it can do some good. So we've had some really cool successes with that product. But yeah, there's, the growth is blue ocean, blue sky. I mean, where this is going to go, nobody knows, but it's going to grow. It's going to continue to grow because
it's exciting. We've sat there. We've all talked about it. Anybody that's been in it for a long time has gone, man, 20 years ago, I thought, God, 5 years, no one will ever build a stick frame house again. This is the coolest product ever, and it's just been that slow grow. But I love the sheetrock analogy. I use the analogy all the time with people because my dad ran a lumberyard, grew up, in the business and saw I-joist come in. I remember when I-joist got brought into lumberyard, a lot of builders were like, that's the cheesiest looking thing. I'll never build a floor out of that, or they looked at, I look at PEX pipe for plumbers, like, they refuse to put that in their walls, and now it's all, there's all these little things, and you forget the sheetrock was the same way. That's a great analogy because it just becomes the thing, right? And it feels like we're seeing it a lot more than we used to. So that's probably one of the cooler things. But lastly, the last question is kind of give you give that Fox Block shout out pitch of why your product, why in the commercial world specifically, because I already had Dalzell give me the Fox Block pitch for residential, but like in commercial, what do you think sets aside your product in the commercial business? Besides the great Randy Daniels, that's what my answer would have been. My answer would have been Randy Daniels, but
yeah. So yeah, but so I get to be part of a team that's just so cool. I mean, the Airlight structure and leadership, it's really something else. The previous companies that worked for, they were branded ICF, didn't really have the manufacturing infrastructure that Airlight has. So why Fox blocks? I would really turn that around and put myself in the position of, if I have a large scale project, so it's just facilitated first off by something as simple as our estimating department. I mean, the 3D renderings that are produced and the takeoffs that are produced, they're such an advantage. I mean, for me, it's just such an advantage to be able to provide the the units and the references and the manufacturing footprint. So we make the webs and they travel a total of like 15 yards to the foam molding machine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the vertical integration and the production capacity on Airlight's footprint and growing. I mean, Airlight started just making block in Omaha, and then it turned, 6 years after that, there was 4 more locations, and then there was, 18 locations and more coming on board like this huge Dallas facility. So I know I'm kind of giving a backdrop, but I really think, people buy from people, and people will like to trust the product they're purchasing. And that starts with, the folks that they're, getting pricing from and estimates from and all of that. So we do a really good job of providing service before any sale. And then the order desk side, once Fox is awarded the sale, the order desk is superb. Can't shout out enough to the team at our, and it's a team, and orders at foxblocks.com. You send an email there, it will get responded to every time and quick. And that's a remarkable thing. And on the product side, when I first saw Fox Blocks, I was walking into a trade show. Kanawha was kicking tires on running sales for Fox Blocks, and he invited me over to that Fox Blocks booth, World of Concrete. And this was like in, I don't know, 2000 maybe. I'm sorry, 2010. And so I looked at it, and I picked it up, looked at it, and I thought, man, good grief. This thing probably costs a ton. It's overbuilt. And then I got the cost on it, and I go, oh, shoot. Hi, Heather.
Well, the boss lady made it. You meant the buzzer.
Please edit this for content. So, everything from, a larger scale interlock that you can handle rough and doesn't break, to the open cavity design. They did a really good job on engineering. Mm-hmm. The Airlight engineers that engineer automotive parts, sporting good parts, packaging parts, and Fox Blocks got engineered really nicely. The cross tie profile and the open cavity design for, concrete flow, consolidation, placement, and on the quality side, the foam, just the Charmin test. I mean, so everybody's got a quality control manual on producing your foam density. Everybody says we got 1.5 density foam, but really? So
I've said that you can pick up certain blocks, you can put your fingerprints in them real easy. You can squeeze into it.
So, quality control manuals that people put out, you can have plus or minus a certain percentage, but Airlight, we make foam packaging, we make foam containers and parts, and we make, so we know so our specs appear to be a little tighter because it's 1.5 pound density. And anyway, there's that. What else? Corner blocks. Yeah. Corner blocks. Whenever I go in to do a little side-by-side comparison, I'll grab our corner and plunk it down. And then I can truly say, yeah, bigger is better.
It's amazing. Like we've said, I've say this on everybody. We actually did just an episode on like how to pick a block, right? That was one of the things we were like, all right, everyone wants to know, like, how do you pick a block? Like, I'm looking at all these different brands, and all those things are such great answers. That's why we do it is to hear all these things, because those are all the little things that if you're not in the game, right, you're not really thinking about it, right? The people don't realize there's different size corners. They don't realize that all the knot, the interlocks are different with everybody. So all those little things that you try to point out to people, and then the biggest picture I can tell people is I always go back to one thing: the people and the support by that company. And that's the one thing that you guys, you have a great, I said this when Dalzell was on here, you guys have a great stable of talent at Fox Block. I mean, you guys have some of the best, in the business working with you guys, and you guys all work well together. Like when you put you guys together, it's a pretty powerful team. When you look at everybody from Kana and you and Alfonso and Dalzell and all these guys, I mean, there's a long list of guys in that company that are really good to work with. And I think that's the best advice I can give people when they're looking at a block to choose for their product is what's the support like? I mean, and what's, how are they going to support you, and how good is the block? So something that I think you guys can hang your hats on. And I think anyone that's listening and you're considering a commercial project, you're definitely not going to go wrong working with Fox Block and with Randy and these guys. So it's a great pitch.
One thing I would caution too is that, we're just, we're manufacturing. We're business development folks. We've got a lot of history and education, and we've seen a lot of stuff go sideways and a lot of stuff go great. And so the most important thing that any manufacturer can bring to the table is really good, high quality installers for commercial projects. So, jockey is one thing, but the horse is what's really going to run that race. So
100%.
So one of my favorite little anecdotes is when I first joined Fox Blocks. I'm sitting across the pickup truck in front of the Omaha manufacturing plant, and that's like 650,000 square feet under roof, and standing across from Pat Gredis, who was Kana's boss at the time. And Pat said to me, "Randy, welcome aboard. We're so glad to have you." And I said, "Well, thank you, Pat. Oh, I'll make some stuff happen, I promise." And he goes, "Well, all we really want you to do is go out there and find the best people. Go find the best people and the quality people to, take care of our product and install it, and we'll do well if you just do that." And just such good common sense, because he came from the general contracting world, and it was his biggest concern is that, we had the right subs, and we're working with the right subs, and making projects go fast, go straight, go plumb, go flat, all of that. And we've got the product. I mean, we've got the product all day long to do that with, but it really is dependent on the quality of the crew that's stacking and pouring. Those guys are the real heroes. They are the guys that are taking on the big risk. The analogy there is, as a manufacturer, we're kind of like the chicken laying the egg, and that's what we're delivering to breakfast. Mm-hmm. Those guys are the bacon. So, my heart goes out to, and they're the folks that are nearest and dearest to me are the subs that are doing such great work with Fox Blocks across Western U.S.
Well, you do a good job of honoring them via your Instagram page.
The YouTube videos.
In the YouTube videos. And oh, dude, I mean, just being able to shout those guys out. Like, I love watching your stuff and being able to see projects you guys have going on, and you do such a great job of honoring the guys that are actually there doing the work and making sure they get their credit. So it works. It's great. And we're going to put in the show notes, I'll put the connections to your Instagram and all that stuff so that people can be able to go watch that. Cause I think it's huge. It just sees like what is going on daily in those large commercial builds and everything, everything that you do. I mean, not just the commercial builds, but like everything you're doing, and you do such a good job of like showing real job sites and things going on, and you're out there with the hard hat on, getting it done, and not just sitting in your office doing podcasts all the time. You're actually out there getting dirty and hot and sweaty. So I think we're about ready to wrap up. The girl boss showed up. We got to get you in here so that people
You're going to have to put a warning in the show notes because you went way over your time limit. This is what happens when I leave you alone. What the heck?
Let's see. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I think you guys were just killing time waiting for me to get back.
That's what it was. We wanted to make sure nobody gets off of an episode without hearing your voice on here. So
we've had one, and it was a Fox Block episode too. So this is what happens. You schedule Fox for the days that I have other shit going on, and then
So, well, one of us has to work. So.
Exactly.
Well, Randy, thank you so much for being on. Like I told you, it was probably my, most anticipated episode to get to talk with you. You really are a hero to me, and I pattern everything from my sales to the way when I do get to teach classes and get in front of people, I pattern myself after you. I've got to watch you for a lot of years do that, and it really is fun to watch. I mean, you make learning fun, and you make the educating of people about ICF really fun. You do it in a great way, and I'm hoping I can push you past that 3 or 4 years of retirement. Maybe we get you another 10 years or something, but I know you like to surf, so I know that's calling your name, but maybe we can do some part-time or something. But anyways, really appreciate you being on here. And I mean, you've just given us so much information. I'm sure I'm going to be leaning on you for another episode because I'm sure there's other things I want to get you involved with here, but this first one was really important to get done. And so thank you for everything you do for ICF, what you've done for me and for our listeners now on this podcast. It's been awesome.
You bet, Trevor. It's an honor, and I'll see if I can fit my fat head through the door after all of that.
Just order some bigger hats, that's all you got to do. So I'll let you do since you're back, you can, put that, do your closing.
Do the socials,
the socials and all that stuff. Yeah.
Continue to send us your questions, info@buildwithicf.com. Check us out on all the socials, Build With ICF. And then again, on our website, the buildwithicf.com website, there's a podcast page, and you can submit questions there because we should be having a listener questions episode coming up.
Probably right after this one.
Next, yeah.
Right after this one will be probably a listener. Yeah, so we'll be getting there. So please send in your questions and stuff, and those are questions that I try to work in to the guests as well if it pertains to a question that guests can ask. Obviously, some of the questions were about commercials, so hopefully some of those questions got answered today. But yeah, continue to hit us up. Share the podcast. We've had tremendous growth, and it's all been because of our listeners, and a lot of that has been driven by people that are just really curious about ICF. And if you have a friend or somebody that's curious, or a builder that needs to learn about it, or anybody, I've even had code officials that are now listeners. So if you've got people that are listening to this and they just want to know a little bit more about ICF, that's why we do this. We're just trying to get more information out there. So don't hesitate to do that. And I don't think we'll get the next one close to an hour, but we did it this time.
Good job.
So thank you, everybody, for listening. We're going to go ahead and get you out of here, and we will catch you on the next episode.